Hello, hello. Welcome to Road to 50 Million. Road to 50 Million. I picked this beautiful picture as a background today with the sun in it because I want to talk about power. And in our experience, there's no power like that sun right there. Stars have, who knows, untold power. And so today's session, I guess, or today's message or today's thought or my experience today or whatever is called Manifesting Power. Now, the first 3 days of this week, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, it was Love Week because we're leading up to Valentine's Day. And if you missed it, we had a fabulous session on my LA Talk radio channel that Jan Van Zant was on. And we talked about love and Valentine's and what love means and what it does and what it does, why we don't have much of it and how we can change that more importantly than anything. Talked about truth and some other really powerful things. You can get to that by going to latalkradio.com. latalkradio.com. And the name of my show is Your Ultimate Life. And if you're familiar with my podcast, that's also Your Ultimate Life on all the regular podcast platforms. And wow, I just recorded episode 752 this morning, and that was a spectacular fun thing. That'll be coming out March 31st, so 4 or 5 weeks from now. But the guest, I'll give you a little sneak preview. The guest was a woman that I met about 10 or so years ago at an event, and she's on a mission, and she has manifested all kinds of power, and here's what this mission is about. And I'm talking about it, even though you can hear that episode in a few weeks, because today's about power. Now, this started with her leaning into an intuition that she had. She grew up or had her early experiences being very skeptical about anything beyond this life. When you're dead, you're gone, right? And then she had some experiences that made her wonder about that, so she did a bunch of research. And didn't make a big deal out of it, but quietly did research and realized there was a lot of evidence to support the idea that there was something after we died, that we didn't just disappear. And so she came to the conclusion that there was indeed something. Now, if you followed any of my stuff much, you know that I wrote a book called Meeting God at the Door. And that door is the door between life and eternity. So I know there's something after this life because I died. But before that, I knew there was too. Anyway, so she did that investigation. And then there was a tragedy in her family. And her father passed away, and something happened that she didn't understand. The passing of her dad caused a lot of grief. Of course, she understood that. But in coping with the grief, her siblings and her had a lot of struggle. And there was a lot of negativity, and it tore the relationships apart, literally, caused some total breakdown, some pretty serious stuff. And so she wondered why and what was going on. And so she started studying about grief and then also why relationships struggle so much. So anyway, since that time, in the last 10 years, she wrote a book called We Don't Die. And it talks about her exploration and learning about life after death. And she's gone to great lengths and now has programs and hosts, people, and she knows lots of mediums and people that do studies of auras and things that communicate with energetic stuff we can't see. And whether you dive into that or not doesn't matter. What I know for sure that you know is that you came from somewhere. Your heart tells you you have a spirit. You came from somewhere and you're going somewhere. There's all kinds of stories about what it looks like, what it means, and whether or not this and that happens. I'm not going to get into that, but without question. And so Janla and I last night talked a bit about that, about knowing that there's something, and she uses the phrase, God, whatever you deem that to be. And rather than get stuck on the semantics, I wanted to reference that, both the conversation last night on LA Talk Radio and my podcast episode this morning, because today we're talking about manifesting power. So my friend, whose podcast I recorded this morning, has been working now for 10 years since the publication of her book to spread a message. And the message isn't weird stuff happens and, it is how to deal with grief. And one of the tools to deal with grief is an understanding of that death isn't the end. And another one is understanding the process of grief, the chemical changes that happen in the brain when we grieve and, that kind of stuff. And so she's done a huge service. And at this point, she has 2 very large podcasts. She told me this morning that iHeartRadio reached out to her because they wanted her to do a show on iHeartRadio. That's how popular her other podcast had become. What that shows is how universal the need is to both understand what happens when we die a little bit better, and more importantly, to deal with the grief that we feel when those things happen. Now, this is an example, a beautiful example of someone discovering their gifts, a gift of listening, a gift of hope, a gift of communication, a gift of research, a gift of writing, and a gift of being willing to give hope to people. So she has turned all of that into a huge platform, done service to countless thousands, and perhaps it's up to the millions now, I don't know. But she has a very large audience. And so one of the things she does is she has a podcast about We Don't Die, and some of the guests are people that have had the kinds of experiences that I had, dying and then having some near-death experience or an experience dying and coming back and so forth. So I was a guest on her show, and We Don't Die is, if you want to see that interview, that's on YouTube. We Don't Die. It might be We Don't Die Radio, but We Don't Die, and her name is Sandra. But anyway, the point of today is she has manifested power in a weird topic, fringe sort of stuff, so what happens after you die, and inspiration and intuition and angels around us and that sort of thing. And here's the thing. If you're honest with yourself right here, right now, you felt that stuff. How it's manifested to you is yours. But intuition, the feeling that people or someone or force is there, communication from the divine, inspiration, those things are real and you know it. Now, the reason that's important isn't just to say, yep, I guess I know it. There's 2 things. One, we shy away from talking about it because we don't want to be laughed at and ridiculed. And we then shy away from believing or using that power. Well, if the divine created the universe and created us, that infinite power, ordering the elements and the molecules and atoms and quarks and waves and quantum fields and zero-point energy and, the infinite expansion and Planck time and Planck temperature and, all of those things that are part of our microscopic understanding of the universe and cosmology and everything else. If that's the purview of the divine, then if you want power, go there. If you want power, go there. Like, you can work in a gym and get power and have your muscles and bench press 200, 300, 500 pounds and lift weights, or you can run faster and run a marathon, or, a mud marathon or a triathlon, or publish a book or 2 or 10 or 50. And that's important but microscopic. And here's what I mean, not to diminish that. But if you choose to connect to the divine power that's in you, like the infinite made you, you have gifts, you do. You may have denigrated them. You may have said, well, they're not worth anything. Nobody cares. I can't find them. I don't know what it is. Or you may have dabbled and thought, well, but they're still there, and it's never too late. So I wanted you to think with me about manifesting power. Now, manifesting is one of those woo-woo words that seems to mean we're going to sit in an armchair and think real hard and manifest success or wealth or friendship. None of that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about including doing the necessary steps. Einstein is credited, at least, with having said genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Now, whether he's the one that said it or someone else doesn't matter. It's true. All of us, me, you, Yanla last night, my gal who is the podcast lady, Sandra this morning, 1% inspiration and 99% busting your butt. The only question is, do you want to make a difference in the world? I see and hear so many people that say to me, and they look me in the eyes, I want to matter, I want to help people, I want to do something good. Yet when it comes to deciding what that is, carving significant and substantial effort and time to develop the gifts you have or to serve with them, even in small ways right here, right now, I don't have time. And, I haven't seen your calendar, but I'll bet you if you were going to die, you could find all kinds of hours to do whatever was necessary to change that. So the question is, how important is it to you to have power, to have the power you need to make a difference in the world? Now, my project here, my project of 50 million, we talked about that last night and this morning. And each of the people, Ayana last night, Sandra this morning, they're on a mission also. They're on a mission to help people with their gifts and their message. And so they're doing the same thing. And people say, well, there's too many advisors or authors or coaches or, woo-woo people. No, there's not. And you know how I know? The level of despair, the level of fear, the level of desperation, the level of giving up is off the charts, more than it's ever been in the history of my life, 67 years. So since that's true, we don't have anywhere near enough encouragement, light, people listening to and living into intuition, people willing to develop their gifts and serve with them. So this is your invitation. I made it my mission this year. From October, my year starts October 14th. So from October 14th, 2022 to October 14th, 2023, and that means my year's already 4 months into it, I'm going to help, or am helping, 50 million people to discover their gifts and to choose to serve with them. Now, I don't know exactly how to measure that. I've got lots of possibilities and tools, but that's less important than you right here, right now, asking your question. Who are you being when you think about your gifts? Because who you're being is the most important decision you make every day. And most of the time, you don't even make it consciously. That's a terrifying reality. And what I mean by that is we get up and we react out of habit and out of external input. So we get up out of habit, grab the phone, look at the news, look at messages, look at whatever, or we get up and turn on the television, or we get up and engage in sort of meaningless preparation activities. And it's not that you don't get dressed and get ready for the day, but you're not being a person who is, I am a developer of my talents. That's who I'm being. Because you said so, not because you need to check a box for me or anybody else. You don't. But as a divine being, you get a choice every day how to show up. So some days you get up, I get up or have gotten up. I try to have that be 0 now. But there was a time in my life where every day I got up, looked at how late I was or barely on time, showered, dashed to the airport, got on a plane if I had to go somewhere or went to an office, and then looked at the schedule. Externally, my day was created and imposed. kids or other things, what had to happen. And when I had personal struggles, there were addictions and other things that got in there too. So that controlled my day. Changes have been made, and here's the changes I invite you to think about. What I do now is I get up, and I don't even get out of bed before I express the deepest gratitude I can for being alive, for breathing. Then I think about a PTAC, Personal Truth and Commitment, which is a document that I created that says who I am and what I'm going to be today. And so when I get up and I do my exercises on the floor, I'm doing it as the creator of this 50 million project. I'm the creator of 50 million, reaching 50 million people doing exercises. I am brushing my teeth as the creator of that person or the creator of that project. I'm having my podcast interviews as the Reach 50 Million guy, the Ultimate Life guy. I have lots of nicknames for that because I talk about a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, the ultimate life. And on and on. And so all day long, my question to myself is, as the guy reaching 50 million, how would I do this? How would I have this conversation? What would I say? What would I do next? And so forth. And, at first it's work, or it feels like work. But if you're truly connected to power, and this is why I said manifesting power, then the power is infinite and the energy is infinite and the resources are infinite, and you can do it. The only question is, do you want to make that impact? Now, you're free to say no and have your life just be like it is. Or you're free to say, you know what, I've been feeling like I need to do something. I've been feeling like I want to, whatever it is for you. But almost always it's follow some nudge, some spiritual urge, live. I saw a post yesterday from someone on Facebook talking about climbing the mountain of integrity. So I don't know this person very well. I know them virtually on Facebook, and I've seen lots of their activity. But what I know is climbing the mountain of integrity means viewing every word, every thought, every action. Is this integrity? And I don't know what definition they have, but for me, integrity is doing what you say and speaking only truth, doing what you say, and being exactly as you seem, with no camouflage, duplicity, or guile, which means sneakiness. That's integrity. I am who I seem to be, and I make that choice consciously. Now, you might think it's too much work, and you know what? I won't pretend it's not work. You have to remember, you have to change, you have to make conscious adjustments. One of my statements in my PTAC is whenever I fall or fail in any declaration, I get up, fess up, clean it up, and recommit. And you know what? I do all that voluntarily, not because I have to, not because I'm trying to get brownie points, but because that's who I've decided to be. And I found that I have more fun, I'm happier, and I make a bigger difference in the world. And all that adds up to the ultimate life. So I live every day fun, working on music, working on books, coaching clients, creating these videos for you and inviting you to give into your intuition. Manifest power, create power, reach into the infinite, and get power to create your ultimate life. I'll see you tomorrow on the road to 50 million.